people, stay dandy, baby. The last member of the Four Perils has officially been revealed. A classic Inuyasha character makes his grand return, and we also learn who is the true culprit who started the forest fire that initially separated Towa and Setsuna. All that and more in the latest batches of episodes of Yashahime. That's right, my friends, I have returned to review the Inuyasha sequel anime series Yashahime, and these episodes were pretty damned exciting. They were a little disappointing in some departments, but for the most part, the hype is still pretty real for the series, and I can't wait to see what sort of conclusion it's actually going to have. It's a brand new year, which means we're also going to be getting a brand new intro, which I have to say, I really love. Visually speaking, it's way better than the first intro, although I'm not quite sure how I feel about the song quite yet, but the intro itself is really awesome as we get to see a lot of those classic characters returning, such as Inuyasha, Kagome, Moroku, Sango, all the classics that you love, but we also get introduced to a number of new ones, including all of the new cast which has been reintroduced at the beginning of this series, as well as a few brand new villains and some really great shots of Sesshomaru battling against Kirin-Maru, which I think is going to be one of the coolest highlights of the series if it even happens. Maybe it's just cool visual fluff for the intro. All I know is it's pretty great. They also introduce a brand new female villain to the series who apparently goes by the name of Zero, and she's actually in line with Kirin-Maru, and she's actually single-handedly responsible for basically hiring another demon to set that forest on fire, which is what is going to separate Towa and Setsuna. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to talk about two episodes today, and the first one is about the big introduction of two major classic Inuyasha characters, Moroku and Sango. This is a long time coming for this series, as I know fans have just been salivating to see what these classic characters have been up to, how they've changed, and how they've had an impact on the current characters that are currently in this series. And the first episode is all about Moroku, who's currently going through some pretty heavy training. Now, he realizes that he doesn't have the super powerful wind tunnel anymore, so he's going through this really intense monk training where he's going to train for 1,000 days, and he's only about halfway through it so far. But while all of this is going on, he has a reunion with his son, as well as Towa, Setsuna, and all the other major characters in the series. But we also get the introduction of Totetsu, who's the last member of the Four Perils, who, I have to admit, have been kind of disappointing in the villain department, but at least Konton is still around, and now we have Totetsu, who is some sort of massive, weird, ogreish, wolf-like demon who has the ability to basically suck things. He's like frickin' Kirby. And yes, I realize the way that I worded that is kind of messed up. Fact of the matter is, Totetsu kind of sucks, both literally and figuratively. He's not exactly the grandest, most amazing villain that I've seen from the series. At least he isn't killed in the episode that he's actually introduced in, and he is something of a powerful demon. But really, there's not much to his character outside of that he's just into wanton destruction, and he's been looking for monks to eat. It's kind of his favorite food, he's what he's into, and eventually that means he's gonna crash courses with Moroku and everybody else that's involved. But aside from that and all the action, I think the most important thing about this episode is certainly the relationship that Moroku actually has with his family. The fact that he's been training for so long, and that this has really been rubbing his son Hisui the wrong way. You see, Hisui has always seen his father as something of a coward after that one moment he decided to go training, as he felt that he was running away from danger, from protecting his family from demons, and that's just the way he is. Chalk it up to the fact that he's been trained by Kohaku to be a badass demon slayer. The fact of the matter is there's some extreme tension between both of these characters, and he doesn't really trust him to get the job done. It isn't until Totetsu decides to arrive at this place and start just wrecking everything that you see the two characters coming together, and he realizes that his father is actually doing pretty good with his training, and this is actually going to allow him to protect his family in a much better fashion, even if it only increases his power by just a little bit. And I'm really glad that they highlighted the fact that Moroku without his wind tunnel is practically a completely different person when it actually comes to the usage of his powers. It's something that he relied on about 99% of the time in the original series, and by taking away that power, which was a curse as well, has completely changed the character. However, with the help of everyone, they are able to fight back against Totetsu. In fact, what I thought was really cool is that apparently Setsuna's like demonic power has actually been sealed away, and Moroku is actually able to remove this seal, and it basically turns her into Setsuna Berserker mode, which is really cool and very reminiscent of what would actually happen to Inuyasha in the original series. And basically this just gives her a massive power up and basically gives her poison poisonous blood, which is really awesome and unique, and this actually causes Totetsu to not only lose the fight, but he actually escapes. So we're definitely going to see more of him, and we definitely know that because we see him in the intro. He's fighting against the main characters quite a bit, and I think he's going to be a pretty interesting villain, and aside from the fact that he has the ability to suck things up, which is kind of like a nice antithesis to what Moroku used to do, he also has the ability to create these black clouds that he can ride on, which is basically a flying Nimbus from Dragon Ball Z. In fact, Towa even mentions that he's very similar to like a character from Journey to the West, so there's clearly some sort of like parallel going on with all of that. But the point is, this was a pretty good straight introduction to the character of Moroku, and the fact that he's going through this training basically ensures that we might not see him for the rest of the series, which is disappointing to say the least, but again, I'm glad that they at least brought the character back to do something. That's the thing that I think most fans have been really wanting to see, is those classic characters return. We even get a very small and brief scene with Sango, and she hasn't aged a day. One thing that I do think is a little disturbing, and maybe you guys could correct me on this, originally at the beginning of the series we saw that Moroku and Sango actually had 2 daughters, but we only see, I believe, one of them throughout the course of this entire episode. Now, they were twins, so maybe they could have swapped places or something, but we have this scene where Sango is praying at a grave, and the dark story is that she could potentially be praying for her daughter who was killed. And if that's the direction it's going in, that's some pretty messed up stuff. And it also, shows why Hisui has it out for his father so much. Maybe the death of his daughter is what caused all of this crazy stuff. We're going to get some more answers to some of the things that are going to be happening like in the current story in the next episode, but still, the fact of the matter is, this is the Moroku episode. I thought it was handled really good, and I thought it was some pretty solid material. The next episode of the series is where things get even more interesting, because we finally get introduced to the villain who is responsible for causing Towa and Setsuna to be separated, and it just so happens it's all tied directly to Kirinmaru, his brand new follower Zero, and Sesshomaru as well. It's not immediately clear at first, but the entire story is actually about this young maiden who goes by the name of Tamano, and Tamano is loved by everybody. She's courted by pretty much every man in Japan, but she manages to always say no to all of them, except for one day when this fire demon decided to come to town and burn everything to the ground and take her along to his hidden castle in the mountains. And this is where she's been kept, basically as his personal slave for a couple of years. And he had this like weird condition where if any man even looked at her, he basically would just flick his fingers and boom, they would be set ablaze. Initially, when this happened, it was pretty dark, but it ends up happening like 3 times in a row, and it gets more excessively silly the more times it happens, that it honestly starts to get a little funny. I know that might seem a little dark, because, I mean, it's dudes getting lit on fire, but they managed to make it kind of funny, and they turn this character, Homora, into something of a very tragic type of character. It's when Towa, Setsuna, and Moroha decide to actually go after him and, like, save this girl that things start to get interesting, as they're actually hired by Riku, the mysterious pirate, who still has to have some sort of crazy connection to Kirinmaru, but they're not making that quite clear yet. But basically they end up going to this place, having this battle with this dude who just ends up just lighting everything ablaze around him. He looks like kind of a weak demon at first, but he is pretty powerful. They are actually not able to defeat him. In fact, he ends up killing himself over the grief that Tamano will never truly love him, and he ends up basically just setting himself on fire, and he dies. Interestingly enough, though, we do get a flashback sequence to when Towa and Setsuna were children, and this is a pretty interesting fact, as it looked like he was actually commissioned by the character of Zero, who's working directly under Kirinmaru, to do this. Why? I have no idea. Evil demons do evil things, and we're just gonna have to find out. Basically, they're doling out the information very slowly, but I can't wait to see what this is all going to be about, especially with this Kirinmaru and Zero character, as they seem to have a very strong connection to Sesshomaru. In fact, during all of these events, Sesshomaru was there. He knew the forest was going to be lit on fire, and he didn't do anything about it. What the actual fuck is going on in this series? I just can't wait to see how everything's going to be tied up, but it looks like the next episode, if you look at the preview, is going to sort of reveal everything that's been leading up to the events of this series, and I, for one, cannot wait to see it. But they're doing a great job of actually building up some brand new mythology for the series, something that I think wouldn't actually have been capable after all the craziness with Naraku and the Shikon Jewel. I do find this just as interesting, and I'm very, very pumped to learn a little bit more about Kirinmaru. Like I said, all the imagery of him in the intro fighting against the Sesshomaru just looked so damned awesome. I love that. I could talk about that intro all day. It's a great intro. Like I said, I'll have to hear it a few more times if I want to appreciate the song, but otherwise, I thought it was some pretty cool shit. So what's the rundown on both of these episodes of Yashahime? The episodes here are really good and also very imperfect at the same time. I've never been a big fan of fighting the villain, beating them down, and then they just sort of run away. Or the fact that in the Homora episode, Homora isn't even defeated. He just ends up killing himself, and then the entire conflict just sort of ends, fade to the next scene, and everybody's all hunky-dory standing on a cliff next to a beautiful sunset. It just feels a little abrupt at times. It's clear they have a bigger plan for Totetsu than they did for Homora, but Homora is a character who should have had a little more weight put behind him. I felt that Towa was robbed of her revenge, of trying to avenge her sister, being separated by her by having this epic battle with Homora, but maybe that's sort of it. Maybe this shouldn't just be a straight revenge story. Maybe that type of story would be too cliche and it would bring down a character like Towa. I'm not really sure. What I will say is that both of these episodes certainly had some strong moments, and there was actually some surprisingly good production value brought into a couple of the major scenes of these episodes. I only bring that up because while I do like the series, it isn't the prettiest anime in the world. It's serviceable and it does its jobs, but there aren't really any big wow moments. For the most part, though, I still continue to really love all the character design and all of the demon designs. Totetsu, while he is just a big, loud, dumb kind of monster character, is inherently kind of fun, and I can't wait to see more of his abilities outside of the fact that basically he just sucks. And, of course, he has a black cloud that he rides around on. He looks like he's going to be a major threat, especially when he combines his abilities with Konton, which I think is going to be pretty cool. I'm glad that these last two members of the Four Perils are actually being something of a threat, because there hasn't really been any big major villains for the series that the girls have encountered quite yet. I think, really, the biggest ones are going to be coming up later in the series with Kiden, Maru, and Zero. And again, there's Riku. I don't know what the deal is with his character. Like I said, there's clearly a connection between him and Kiden Maru, but they're not making it clear. Even in the intro, there's a great scene where you see Kiden Maru and it immediately cuts to Riku right after that. That's not a coincidence. There's a reason for this happening. And, you know, a lot of people still have their theories as maybe they're one of the same. Maybe Riku is the son of Kiden Maru. It's really hard to say. I do love that we have all of these different characters with their different motives. As for the three main leads, it's pretty much just still more of the same. A lot of the development between Towa and Setsuna I still think is sort of like the foundation of the series. The intro makes that very clear. With Moroha, despite being the daughter of the main characters of the original series, has been relegated to really awesome side character status. I still absolutely love her to death, and I think she's great, and I want more development from her, but it's Towa and Setsuna's story which is really taking center stage in the entire show, and you can even see initially, Setsuna was not very happy about the fact that she had a sister. She was a lone wolf type of character. Little by little, she's starting to warm up to her. But there's also these little funny moments between the characters, like the fact that Setsuna is deathly afraid of Towa's cell phone, which I don't know how that thing is still charged. Can anybody explain this for me? I mean, I just don't get how it works. Maybe I shouldn't be thinking about that in a show which features a giant wolf demon who flies around in a black cloud and sucks shit up. The point is, it's funny, it's played for laughs, and seeing Setsuna bring out her freaking spear to attack this thing is really funny. It's a great balance again like the original series, with very creepy moments with demons and funny, lighthearted moments with the main characters. And overall, I'm excited to see what the rest of the series is going to bring us. I hope it's going to have a solid conclusion, and who knows, this could just be the beginning of an even bigger feudal fairy tale for the future of Yashahime. Maybe after the first major arc they could give us more. Maybe it is just going to conclude after a single season. What I will say is, I'm still getting a tremendous amount of enjoyment from the show, and I can't wait to see more. It has its faults, but its nostalgia is just attacking me from all sides, and that's allowing me to really just let my guard down and enjoy it. And I suggest you do the same if you're fans of the franchise. Don't expect Shakespeare, just expect a fun kind of anime series with some really interesting characters and lots of crazy demons. If you do that, you might end up enjoying it. And that's why I enjoyed both of these episodes despite their faults, which is why I'm going to give both of them a 4 out of 5. Now, keep in mind I am a little biased. I'm a huge classic fan of Inuyasha, so yeah, I am giving it a little bit of leniency. I think most people will consider these 2 or 3 out of 5 episodes, but for me, I'm still enjoying them quite a bit. I'm a cheap date. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you did like these episodes. Maybe you didn't like these episodes. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the brand new intro, the potential of the future for the series, where this whole Kid and Maru story is actually going to be going and how it's going to tie into Zero and Sesshomaru and the other characters. Just leave me all your thoughts, your hopes and dreams for the future of Yashahime. Let's discuss it all in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I cannot thank you guys enough for continuing to watch my videos. If you did like them, go the extra mile. Hit that like button. It helps out these videos a lot. And why not? Subscribe to the channel. I have a ton of other anime reviews which are coming down the line. Also, go ahead and address the elephant in the room. I'm behind on a lot of shows. I'm going to be catching up on them very soon. I have a number of other reviews which are going to be dropping very soon. I finally just started watching the final season of Attack on Titan. Expect like a big giant episode 1 through 5 of season, like the final season of that coming up really soon. I'm very excited to talk about that. Boruto is back. There's this stupid spider show that I think I'm going to end up talking about, not to mention The Promised Neverland, and maybe even a few other surprises. I'm also very much looking forward to the return of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. I know that's about to drop on us too, so I'm very excited. But if there's any shows that you guys think that I should check out, tell me why in the comment section below, and if I have the time, I will try and look at them. I would also like to go ahead and take this time to thank all of my patrons. I've been getting a number of new patrons lately. It's been really awesome, and you guys are awesome because not only you're watching my videos, but you're giving me these monthly donations. Remember, first-time donators, I will review an anime series of your choice. I have a large number of Patreon reviews which are going to be coming up in the next coming weeks and months, so please make sure to stay tuned for that. And of course, if you make a donation and join my Patreon, I would love to add your name to this list of super badass people, the freaking producers of Ace Guru. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.